My name is Robert, and I am 41 years old, and I never thought I would live to see the day when my own family would look me in the eye and call me a monster. I never thought blood could turn so cold, or that my own sister, the girl I once protected, the one I carried on my shoulders as a child, would destroy me with a single lie. But that's exactly what happened when she claimed I had hit her. One false accusation, and suddenly I wasn't a brother, or a son, or an uncle anymore. I was an outcast. And while I was fighting to defend my name, she was quietly securing every penny of our $80,000 inheritance. Growing up, Lisa and I couldn't have been more different. She was the loud one, the dramatic one, the kind of person who knew how to get attention with a smile or a tear at just the right moment. I was the steady one, the responsible one. Our parents often told me, "Rob, you have to look out for your sister. She's not as strong as you." I carried that weight my whole life, protecting her, bailing her out when she made mistakes, letting her lean on me even when it cost me. For years, I believed it was my duty. But what I didn't know was that one day, she would turn that history of protection into a weapon against me. It all began after our father passed away. His death shattered me. He had been the rock of our family, a stern but fair man who believed in honesty above all else. In his will, he left everything to be split evenly between Lisa and me. A modest house, some savings, and most notably, an inheritance of $80,000 that he had worked his whole life to set aside for us. It wasn't a fortune, but it was his legacy, his way of making sure his children had something to build on after he was gone. First, things seemed simple. The lawyer explained the division, and both of us signed the papers. But soon after, Lisa started showing signs that she wasn't happy with just half. She made little comments. "You make more than me, Rob. You don't really need the money." Or, "Dad always gave you more anyway. It's only fair I get more this time." I brushed them off, thinking grief was clouding her judgment. But underneath, I could sense the greed taking root. The breaking point came one night when we were at our mother's house, going through some of Dad's old things. Lisa brought up the inheritance again, this time openly demanding a larger share. I told her no, that Dad's wishes were clear and we needed to honor them. She snapped, her voice sharp, accusing me of being selfish, of hoarding what wasn't really mine. The argument grew heated, voices raised, years of sibling rivalry boiling over. Then, in a move I still can't believe, she suddenly shoved herself back, grabbed her arm, and screamed, "You hit me." The room froze. My mother gasped, rushing to her side, while I stood there stunned, my heart pounding in disbelief. "What are you talking about?" I shouted. "I didn't touch you." But Lisa cried harder, holding her arm as if I had struck her. My mother looked at me with horror, her voice trembling as she said, "Robert, how could you?" The words stabbed me like knives. I tried to explain, tried to reason, but the damage was already done. Lisa had planted the seed, and my mother believed her. My sister, the girl I had spent my whole life protecting, had turned my family against me with one fabricated moment. The days that followed were worse than any nightmare. Word spread quickly through relatives, through friends, even through my workplace. Lisa told everyone that I had lost my temper and hit her during an argument about the inheritance. She spun the story so convincingly that people looked at me differently, whispered when I walked into the room. My phone buzzed with messages, some from relatives telling me to apologize, others from friends asking how I could do such a thing. No one asked for my side. No one wanted to believe that maybe Lisa was lying. And all the while, behind the scenes, Lisa moved fast. She went back to the lawyer, claimed she was afraid of me, and requested to have control over the inheritance for her safety. My mother supported her, saying it was better this way, that I was too volatile. I sat there in shock as I realized what was happening. My sister had weaponized a lie, and my family was helping her use it to strip me of everything my father had wanted me to have. The inheritance that was supposed to bind us together had become a knife she used to cut me out night. I lay awake replaying that moment over and over in my head. Her scream, my mother's horrified face, the way everyone instantly believed her. I had always thought truth had weight, that honesty would win out. But I was learning the hardest lesson of my life. Sometimes a lie, if told loudly enough, drowns out the truth completely. And as the weeks went on, as the calls from relatives stopped and the invitations to family dinners vanished, I realized something even more devastating. I wasn't just losing money. I was losing my family. The days after Lisa's accusation were some of the darkest of my life. At first, I thought the truth would protect me. I told myself my mother would calm down, think rationally, and realize what had really happened. I believed my aunts and uncles, people who had known me since I was a child, would see through Lisa's act. But I was wrong. It was as if her lie had flipped a switch in everyone's minds. Overnight, I became the villain in a story I had never agreed to be a part of. The phone call started almost immediately. My aunt called, her voice trembling with disappointment. "Robert, how could you? She's your sister. No matter what the fight was about, you never put your hands on family." I tried to explain, tried to tell her I hadn't touched Lisa, but she cut me off with a heavy sigh. "Your mother was there. She saw her crying. You need to own up to what you did." Each call was the same. Relatives, cousins, even family friends, they all wanted me to apologize, to admit guilt. No one wanted to hear that Lisa had lied. No one wanted to believe that the smiling, charming girl they adored was capable of such manipulation. To them, I was the angry older brother, lashing out in frustration over money. The role she had cast me in fit too neatly into their expectations that AKT work, things grew tense. Word spread there too. Lisa had always been close with some of my coworkers through church, and I started noticing the whispers, the side glances. One afternoon, my manager called me into his office. He didn't accuse me directly, but the message was clear. "Robert, I've heard some concerning things. Keep your personal issues at home. We don't want trouble here." My stomach dropped. Not only was I losing my family, but my career, the one place I thought I was safe, was now tainted too. Meanwhile, Lisa wasted no time moving forward with her plan. She went to the lawyer handling our father's estate, claiming she was terrified of me, that I had become violent. With my mother backing her up, she argued that she should receive the inheritance directly to protect her from further conflict. The lawyer, bound by procedure but swayed by the weight of her story and my mother's testimony, granted her temporary control. Just like that, the $80,000 that should have been split between us was effectively in her hands. When I found out, I drove straight to my mother's house, my chest burning with rage. She opened the door cautiously, as if I were a stranger. "Why are you here, Robert?" she asked, her voice cold. "Why am I here?" I exploded. "Because Lisa is stealing everything. Because you're letting her lie and take what belongs to both of us. Do you even hear yourself? Do you realize what you're doing?" Her lips trembled, but her words were firm. I believe Lisa. I saw the fear in her eyes that night. I can't ignore that, Robert. I laughed bitterly, though tears stung my eyes. "Fear?" She screamed and held her arm like an actress in a play. "And you fell for it. You believed her over me. Your own son who has never laid a hand on anyone in his life." My mother's silence told me everything. I could see it in her eyes. She wasn't going to defend me. She had chosen her side. The final blow came at a family gathering a few weeks later. Against my better judgment, I showed up, desperate to salvage something, anything from the wreckage. When I walked into the room, conversations died. All eyes turned to me, some filled with judgment, others with pity. Lisa sat in the corner, surrounded by relatives, her face downcast like she was the victim of some great tragedy. I tried to speak, to defend myself, but my uncle cut me off. "Robert, enough. We've all heard what happened. You need to take responsibility. Stop making excuses." I stood there, my hands trembling, my face burning. "I didn't hit her," I said, my voice cracking. "I didn't touch her. She lied. And you're all so eager to believe her because it's easier than questioning the story." But no one listened. No one wanted to hear it. The whispers resumed. The judgmental stares pressed down on me. And I realized in that moment that I was already convicted. Not by a court, but by my own blood. As the weeks turned into months, the inheritance was finalized. Lisa received the money in full, using my supposed violence as justification for why I couldn't be trusted with it. $80,000, our father's legacy, the fruit of his lifetime of work, was gone from my reach. She used it to buy herself a new car, post pictures of vacations, show off to friends. Every photo she posted online felt like another knife in my back that tea night. I lay awake wondering how she could live with herself, how she could look in a mirror knowing she had lied, knowing she had destroyed her own brother's life for money. But then I realized the truth. Lisa didn't see it as wrong. She saw it as winning. She had manipulated the family, secured the money, and left me in the ashes. The pain wasn't just in losing the money. It was in losing my family. The phone call stopped. The invitations ended. Birthdays, holidays, family dinners, all gone. It was as if I had been erased, cut out of the picture, while Lisa stood in the center smiling. One night, Claire, my girlfriend at the time, sat me down and asked, "Rob, why are you still trying? Why are you still chasing people who don't want to hear the truth?" Her words hit me hard because she was right. I had been clinging to the hope that someone, anyone, would open their eyes and see through Lisa's lies. But they never did. That night, as I stared at the ceiling in the dark, I realized something. Lisa hadn't just stolen money. She had stolen my family, my reputation, my place in the world I grew up in. And if I wanted to survive, I had to let it go. But letting go wasn't easy. It meant admitting that the people who should have known me best had chosen to believe the worst. It meant living every day with the knowledge that the truth didn't matter, not when a lie was easier to swallow. And it meant facing the painful reality that blood doesn't always mean loyalty. The months after Lisa secured the inheritance were the loneliest of my life. It felt like I was living in exile, a ghost haunting the edges of a family that had erased me. Birthdays passed without a call. Holidays came and went without an invitation. Even the relatives who once leaned on me for help or advice no longer reached out. I was no longer Robert, the dependable son, the steady older brother. I was Robert, the violent liar, the shameful relative to be avoided. I tried to keep living my life, but the weight of it followed me everywhere. At the grocery store, I'd run into family friends who would glance at me, whisper to each other, then quickly turn away. At work, though no one said anything directly, I could feel the tension in the air, the way colleagues avoided bringing up personal matters with me. My reputation was poisoned, and there was nothing I could do to cleanse it. The nights were the worst. I'd lie awake staring at the ceiling, replaying that night over and over. The way Lisa clutched her arm, the way she screamed, the look of horror on my mother's face. It was burned into my memory like a scar. Sometimes I'd get up, walk around the house in the dark, clenching my fists, whispering to myself, I didn't touch her. I didn't. But no matter how many times I said it, it didn't matter. The truth had been drowned by her lie. Meanwhile, Lisa flourished. She bought herself a shiny new car, the kind she'd always dreamed of. She went on vacations, posting pictures of herself on beaches, smiling with cocktails in her hands. Each photo was a punch to the gut, a reminder that while I was drowning in shame, she was swimming in stolen wealth. And my family, my mother, my aunts, my cousins were all in those pictures too, smiling with her, supporting her. Not one of them seemed to question where the money came from. Not one of them seemed to care about the price I had paid for her lie. The anger inside me grew like a fire I couldn't put out. I wanted to confront her, to shout the truth from the rooftops, to make everyone see what she had done. But every attempt I made only backfired. When I tried to call her, she blocked my number. When I sent an email, she forwarded it to the family, twisting my words to make me look unstable. Once, in desperation, I showed up at my mother's house when I knew Lisa would be there. The moment I walked in, she gasped and clutched her arm again, just like that night, as if she were bracing for another blow. My mother rushed to her side, glaring at me with fury. "Get out, Robert. You're not welcome here." I left that house with tears streaming down my face, realizing I had lost more than money. I had lost my mother too. She had made her choice, and it wasn't me. The isolation ate at me. I stopped going to family events, stopped answering calls from distant relatives who only want to gossip, stopped trying to explain myself to people who didn't want to listen. My world shrank to work, my small circle of friends, and the quiet of my empty house. Even some friends began to drift away, unsure of whether to believe me or Lisa. People love drama. and her version of events made for a more scandalous story. Point one evening, I sat at the kitchen table with a glass of whiskey, staring at the will my father had left behind. His signature was there, bold and steady, leaving equal shares to both of us. I traced my finger over the words, feeling the weight of his intention. He had trusted us to honor his wishes, to split his legacy fairly, to carry his values forward. And Lisa had spat on that trust. She had twisted his legacy into a weapon, used it to destroy the very family he had spent his life holding together. I thought about my father a lot in those months. What he would say if he could see us now. If he would look at Lisa with disappointment, or at me with pity for letting it happen. Sometimes in the quiet of the night, I whispered to him, "Dad, I tried. I swear I tried." But the silence that followed was deafening. As the inheritance money fueled Lisa's new life, I struggled to keep mine together. Bills piled up. Stress at work mounted. I withdrew from friends, embarrassed by the whispers, exhausted by the burden of defending myself. Depression crept in like a fog. Some mornings I didn't want to get out of bed. Some nights I wondered what the point of any of it was. The only thing that kept me going was the faint, stubborn hope that one day the truth would come out. That someone, anyone, would finally see Lisa for who she really was. That my family would realize they had cast out the wrong person. But deep down, another part of me knew that day might never come. People don't like to admit they were wrong, especially when it means rewriting the story they've already chosen to believe. That it was in that hopelessness that I hit rock bottom. One night, after another long day of whispered judgments and silent treatments, I sat in the dark and admitted the truth to myself. My family was gone. Lisa had won. Her lie had severed me from them, and there was no going back. And in that painful acceptance, something inside me shifted. I realized that if I wanted to survive, I had to stop waiting for them to come back. I had to stop clinging to the hope of reconciliation. I had to let go. But letting go didn't mean forgiveness. It didn't mean forgetting what Lisa had done. It meant something colder, something harder, learning to live with the wound, to carry it with me, and to build a life beyond the ruin she had left behind. Because if I didn't, her lie would destroy me completely. For months, I tried to disappear in the background, to let the storm pass, but deep down I knew it wasn't over. Every whisper, every cold glance, every reminder that I had been erased from my own family ate away at me until I couldn't take it anymore. I had kept quiet, hoping silence would protect me, hoping the truth would somehow reveal itself. But silence only gave Lisa more power. And eventually, I realized I couldn't live like that. If I was going to be hated, then at least they would hate me for speaking the truth, not for cowering in shame. The chance came on my mother's birthday. For weeks, I debated going. Part of me wanted to avoid it, to spare myself the humiliation. But another part of me, the part that still clung to the idea of fairness, of truth, pushed me to show up. If you don't speak now, I told myself, they'll never hear your side. When I arrived, the house was full. Cousins, uncles, family friends, everyone was there, laughing, drinking, celebrating. And there she was, Lisa, dressed in new clothes, flashing jewelry I knew had been bought with Dad's money, surrounded by relatives like a queen holding court. When she saw me, her smile faltered for a split second before she leaned into the performance, wrapping her arm around our mother and whispering something that made her nod gravely. The room went quiet when I walked in. Conversations dimmed, eyes followed me, the weight of judgment heavy in the air. I took a deep breath and forced myself forward. "Happy birthday, Mom," I said softly, handing her a card. She took it, but her expression was stiff, her lips pressed thin. For a while, I sat quietly in the corner, nursing a drink, watching Lisa charm the crowd. But as the evening wore on, the tension became unbearable. My heart pounded in my chest, my palms sweaty, my throat dry. Finally, I stood, my voice shaking but loud enough for the room to hear. "I need to say something." All eyes turned to me. Lisa's smile froze, her eyes narrowing. "I'm sick of living as the villain in a story that isn't true," I said, my voice gaining strength as I went on. I did not hit Lisa. I never laid a hand on her. That night, she lied, and you all believed her without a single question. Because of that lie, I lost my inheritance, my reputation, and my family. But I won't sit here quietly anymore while she gets to play the victim and spend the money Dad wanted us to share. The silence that followed was deafening. For a moment, I thought maybe, just maybe, someone would believe me. But then Lisa stood, tears brimming in her eyes, her voice trembling like an actress in a play. "See, this is what I've been talking about," she said, her tone wounded. "He's obsessed, angry, bitter. He can't let it go. I was terrified that night, and I'm terrified now. You all heard him. He's attacking me again." Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother rushed to her side, wrapping her arms around her protectively. "Robert, stop this," she cried. "You've done enough damage." "I've done enough?" I shouted, my chest heaving. "She stole everything. She lied about me. And you let her take Dad's money while you threw me away like trash. Don't you see? Don't you care?" But the looks on their faces told me everything. They didn't see. They didn't care. To them, I wasn't a son or a brother anymore. I was the problem they wanted to erase. Why Uncle stepped forward, his voice firm. "Robert, you need to leave. Now. This isn't the time or place." I laughed bitterly, though tears burned my eyes. It's never the time or place, is it? As long as Lisa's lie stands, it never will be. But I hope one day you all realize what you've done. I hope one day you see her for who she really is. And when that day comes, don't come looking for me. I turned to leave, but before I reached the door, my mother's voice stopped me. "Robert," she said coldly, her arms still wrapped around Lisa, "if you can't let this go, then maybe you don't belong in this family anymore." The words hit me harder than any fist ever could. I stood frozen, my back to them, the sound of whispers filling the room. My mother, my own mother, had just disowned me in front of everyone that I walked out without another word, the cold night air hitting me like a slap. My vision blurred with tears as I stumbled to my car, my hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the keys. I sat there for a long time, staring at the house where I had grown up, where I had celebrated birthdays and Christmases, where I had once felt safe. Now it wasn't home anymore. It never would be again. Driving away that night, I felt something break inside me. Whatever fragile hope I had been holding on to, that the truth would come out, that my family would see reason, was gone. Lisa had won. Her lie had not only stolen the inheritance, but had severed me from my blood. And, as painful as it was, I knew one thing with certainty. I couldn't go back. Not ever. The days after my mother told me I didn't belong in the family were some of the hardest I've ever lived through. At first, I felt like I was walking through fog, stunned by the finality of her words. For weeks, I replayed that birthday night in my head. The room full of people, Lisa's fake tears, the way everyone looked at me like I was a monster. It was as though the door to my childhood home had slammed shut forever, and no matter how much I pounded on it, no one inside would open it again. At work, I buried myself in tasks, trying to keep my mind occupied. But the silence of evenings was unbearable. I'd sit in my living room staring at old photos of family holidays, birthdays, and vacations. There was Lisa, smiling with her arm around me. There was my mother, proud, her hand on my shoulder. And there was my father, gone now, the only one who might have seen through all of this. Sometimes I whispered to those photos, "Dad, you'd know the truth. You'd believe me." But the pictures stared back in silence. Lisa, meanwhile, seemed to thrive. She flaunted her new lifestyle openly. Photos of her car, of trips abroad, of expensive dinners. Relatives liked her posts, commented about how proud Dad would be of her. I couldn't believe it. Proud of her? Proud of what? Lying her way into $80,000 and destroying her own brother's life? Each post felt like salt in the wound. She was the hero, I was the villain, and no one questioned it. The isolation took its toll. Friends drifted away, unsure of what to believe. Some told me privately they didn't think I was capable of violence, but even their support was hesitant, cautious, as if siding with me might bring them into the crossfire of family drama. The loneliness was suffocating. For the first time in my life, I truly felt like I had no one, but slowly, painfully, something shifted. The anger that had burned in me for months began to cool, leaving behind something harder, clearer: acceptance. I realized that no amount of shouting or explaining would change the story my family had chosen to believe. Lisa had given them a version of events that fit their narrative: me as the cold, angry brother, her as the fragile sister in need of protection. It didn't matter that it was a lie. It only mattered that it was easy. And people will always cling to the easier story, no matter how false. Once I accepted that, I started to let go. Not forgive, never that, but release. I stopped checking Lisa's social media, stopped replaying the confrontation in my head, stopped rehearsing arguments that would never be heard. Instead, I focused on what I still had: my job, a few loyal friends, and the chance to build a life free of the poison my family had poured into me. It wasn't easy. There were nights I lay awake with tears burning in my eyes, aching for the family I'd lost, longing for the mother who once hugged me tightly, for the sister I once carried on my shoulders. But then I reminded myself that those people weren't real anymore. Or maybe they never were. Maybe the love I thought I had was conditional, fragile, ready to vanish the moment it was tested. Over time, I began to rebuild. I reconnected with old friends outside the family circle, people who remembered me before the lies. I joined a local community group, throwing myself into projects that reminded me I still had value, that I wasn't just the sum of one false accusation. I started therapy too, something I had resisted at first. My therapist listened quietly as I spilled everything: the betrayal, the loss, the rage, and then said something I'll never forget. "Robert, the tragedy isn't just that your sister lied. It's that your family chose to believe her. That choice says more about them than it ever will about you." Those words became my anchor. Slowly, I began to understand that I couldn't control what Lisa had done or what my family had chosen to believe. But I could control how I lived moving forward. It's been years now since that night, and I haven't spoken to Lisa or my mother since. Relatives still call occasionally, asking if I'll come to a holiday gathering or a reunion. I always decline. I tell them the truth: there's no place for me there anymore. Some try to guilt me, saying life is too short, that family is all we have. But I've learned the hardest truth of all: blood doesn't guarantee loyalty. Sometimes family isn't who you're born to, but who stands by you when the world falls apart. As for Lisa, she still has the money, the inheritance that should have been shared between us. Let her have it. Let her build her life on lies and stolen legacy. Because while she may have $80,000, she has to live with the truth of what she did. And I have something she will never have: the knowledge that I didn't betray anyone, that I stayed true even when no one else did. My name is Robert. I am 41 years old, and I've been disowned by my own family because of a lie. But in losing them, I found something I never expected: freedom. Freedom from manipulation, from false love, from the chains of obligation that kept me bound to people who never really saw me. And though the wound will never fully heal, I've come to understand that sometimes being cast out is the only way to finally stand on your own.